I have the copy of the book, All I Need to Know About Filmmaking. I Learned from the Toxic Avenger, written by our guest tonight, Lloyd Kaufman.
Awesome.
I read this 10 years ago. And
That
the same week I read Roger Corman's book, too. So.
Wow. This is the perfect segue. Man, you're great at segues. You want to get to our first guest?
I do, definitely.
Okay. Our first guest tonight is a true Renaissance man. He is the writer and director of the rousing horror comedy Slither, the writer of Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo 2, and the terrific remake of Dawn of the Dead, and that's some versatility right there for you.
That is.
He's an actor, an author, and a musician, and his latest projects continue to take his formidable talents into new and exciting directions. He has a new reality series titled Screen Queens, which premieres on VH1 October 20th. He's written and directed a twisted sitcom for Xbox Live titled Umanzi, and you can catch the premiere episode of his new web series, I love this, PG Porn, starting today on Spike.com. And Jerry, if you can type that link into the chat room during this conversation,
with my pleasure, my friend.
anything having to do with porn, it's really our pleasure. He's won the Filmmaker Showcase Award from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, a Fangoria Chainsaw Award, and he's the first person in the history of cinema to write 2 back-to-back #1 films. It is a great pleasure to welcome Mr. James Gunn to Movie Geeks United. Mr. Gunn, hello.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
What's up, man?
How are you?
I'm really good. I'm very happy because I just found out we've gone over 60,000 hits on PG Porn on Spike.com. So it's
I helped.
Did you? Yeah,
I did. If you knew what I did today at work and at home, you'd be very proud.
Did you pass out some? You pass out some emails to people?
Oh no, just me myself. Don't worry about it.
It's you. I think only any one person. Well, any one computer only gets counted once, I believe. So.
Okay, well don't worry. I was at 3 different computers today, so.
That's what I want you to. I want you to go to the library and start at the end of the line of those computers and just watch PG Porn on one library computer after the next.
I will do that as soon as we're done with the show.
I believe you will.
Okay, now James, I was reading about you, and tell me a little bit about yourself first. I know that your family, you have an extremely creative family, and I was wondering if filmmaking was the avenue of choice for you right away.
No, it wasn't for me. When I went back and forth. I was always a creative kid, I suppose. Doing artistic stuff of some type was always the center of my life. And I started making movies when I was very young, 11 or 12 years old. I started making films, that starred my brothers and the kids in the neighborhood, that were, sometimes horror films with zombies eating each other. I was really into that. I was really into comedy. I did a movie about commercials once. It was all a bunch of commercial parodies. It was probably the worst thing ever. And it's just a bunch of kids cracking up while they're shooting. But I always made movies. But I also played music through high school and college, and was a cartoonist. I had cartoons and all sorts of things. So I was really, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And I did really play music professionally for a few years when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And that's what I was sort of focused on, and that just kind of fell apart after a couple of years. It was staying at the same place. It wasn't getting any better. And that's when I came back to filmmaking in a very real way, through writing. And,
were horror films particularly influential to you?
What horror films are? I'd say that, David or John Carpenter's The Thing. All of the movies of David Cronenberg, are almost all of them, but especially The Brood and Videodrome and Rabid and They Came From Within.
You got good taste.
Rosemary's Baby is probably my favorite horror
film. That is
your
favorite, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But you got in terms of filmmaking, you pretty much got your start with Troma, isn't that correct?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I was wondering, how good was that for kind of on-the-job training? What was that experience
like? It was perfect. I mean, a lot of people complain about Troma because you don't get paid very much to work there. I wrote the screenplay for Romeo and Juliet for $150, and that's all I ever got paid to write that film. I did, go on to produce a movie, and then I got paid a weekly fee for that. But for the most, but even that was very low, And Lloyd complained about what he thought was an exorbitant fee that he was paying me all the time. Which I think was,
that seems like him.
It was $400 a week. I know what it was.
Isn't it really the privilege and the experience to work with Lloyd worth it? The whole,
yes,
he knows so much.
It absolutely was. Because I got to learn. Other kids go to film school and they learn about certain parts of filmmaking. But I was able to start working for Troma, and I got to learn about everything about making a movie from, the first stage of developing a script through, pre-production. I got to, help cast the movie, and I had to go, I was just sort of the troubleshooter. Like, we couldn't find locations, and I had to go out location scouting and location managing. And then I, went on to, direct a lot of the stuff in the movie and got that experience. And then after the movie was done, I got to sit through all the editing and learn about all the post-production stuff, and even through the marketing and the putting the movie into theaters, the business side of it. I really got to learn everything about making a movie from A through Z, and that's such a rare experience. It's such a rare experience.
Priceless.
I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, of course.
And now, you excel at kind of comedic horror. And Slither is just a fantastically fun experience. I want you to tell me about mixing those two. I've often been curious about this because when you try to scare someone and you try to make someone laugh, those are two kind of emotions that produce some sort of a similar release.
I really noticed early on that there's a lot more in a good horror film or decent. Let's take John Carpenter's The Thing. There's a lot of funny shit in that movie, and a lot of times. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure what this language.
No, you can curse as much as you want.
You're on the right show for that. Don't you worry about that.
But there's a lot of stuff in that movie that you laugh because it's actually funny. The characters say funny stuff. But there's also stuff in the movie where you laugh because it's just so outlandish and over the top, or you laugh because you get really scared and then you laugh after you're scared. And I think that during the screening of John Carpenter's The Thing, there's actually a lot more laughter in that movie than in most comedies. And that's the thing. Horror and comedy sort of go hand in hand. But for me, they definitely go hand in hand because, and it's not anything I set out to do. The truth is I set out to make a horror movie with Slither, and while I'm writing it, I'm making myself laugh. I wrote a novel called The Toy Collector. I never thought of it. While I was writing it, I never thought of it as a comic novel. I didn't think of it as a comedy. I thought of it as just a story. I didn't think of it as any one genre. I did, while I was writing it, make myself laugh a lot because I guess that's the way I entertain myself. But I never thought of it as a comedy, and the book comes out and everybody's it's like a dark comic novel. And I'm like, okay. Same thing with Slither. When I wrote the screenplay for Slither, I wasn't sitting there trying to, make a movie that was, I wasn't trying to make a movie that was funny, but I guess I was because I was trying to make myself laugh all the time. But I didn't think of it like that. I just thought I was trying to make a movie that was entertaining.
Yeah, and it really
you did that, without a doubt.
You mentioned novel writing as well. What kind of different muscles do you exercise from writing a novel compared to writing a screenplay? What are the two different disciplines there for you?
They're very similar in a lot of ways. It's actually much easier writing a screenplay because it's a much shorter format. You're writing a 120-page script, which is a lot fewer words than is even a 200 short novel that would be 250 pages long. So writing a novel, it's a very dense experience where you really have to go all the way into it. One of the difficulties in writing a screenplay is that you have to cut so much. You really need to keep things concise. And in fact, I'm talking to people who have created TV shows like Joss Whedon. One of the reasons why they love creating a TV show is because you don't have to just hit these bullet points of a character in a scene. You really get to go in depth into who these characters are on a TV show. A movie isn't like that. You really have to have the scenes be short. One thing leads to the next. Everything moves very quickly. Even a movie you think of as a sort of a taut drama moves fairly quickly in comparison to a novel or a TV show.
Yeah, I think you're right. And more and more, just fantastic talents are moving to TV because it gives them the room to explore more than they can.
I think also there's less of a stigma. I mean, years ago, and not that many years ago, I moved to LA 10 years ago, and even then, I think there was a big divide between a filmmaker and someone who creates TV shows. But I think today, I mean, in some ways, both movies and film are dying art forms, and it's just things are more equal, and there's a lot of people that switch back and forth between the two, and that's why I find the new media stuff so interesting, because it is so alive and it's so vibrant, and it's completely new, and the genres aren't really developed yet, so we get to create our own form. We get to create what type of shows we want to create with no boundaries whatsoever, and it's a living medium. It's not something that's been, the tracks haven't been set down for us a long time ago. So
I'm glad
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you brought this up because we discussed this with Paul Schrader earlier this year, and he said, the landscape of film as we know it is going to change into these new media, as you've mentioned. What do you think is going to happen to the motion picture experience? I mean, do you think it's going to be mostly relegated to external media like the web and that sort of thing in the future?
I don't, but I do think that already you're starting to find that the movies that work, the theatrical releases that work, are pretty much either big budget tentpole spectacle films, things like Iron Man, that really work well as a communal experience on the big screen, and that are also spectacularly visually over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Those things work very, very well in a movie theater, and even as movies in high definition on your home TV, if you have a big screen TV. Those things work very well. The other thing that often works very well are comedies, because you go and you experience this communal experience of people together. But I do think that independent film is dying, and one of the reasons it's dying is just simply because the corporations have gobbled up everything and shut out smaller productions. But the other reason is I just don't think people are that interested in it anymore. I think people who want to watch something that's a little bit quieter and a little bit slower will watch Dexter. There's amazing TV shows that are they're more quirky. They're less. The Sopranos was. If it ever got a rating, it would have been rated NC-17 because it just went so far. You didn't have the MPAA breathing down their backs, so there's a lot more freedom in that respect. And I think on the web also. I think people get to see something if it's idea based, they can watch it on the internet even now. So I do think that the way people experience entertainment is much different. And it's also, listen, here's one of the things is that people are always talking about interactive media. And I think that it is not panning out. People don't want interactive media except for video games. They want to watch video games. Mm-hmm. And if they want to have an interactive medium, they want a medium where they have complete control, where they are the character, they are able to shoot the dinosaurs, walk through the swamps, do all of that stuff. They don't want choose your own adventure. It's too limited. But where they do want interaction is on the internet with short form entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of what you get with a short form comedy today is not so much the heir to the TV show, it's the heir to the cartoon strip in the daily newspaper. Years ago, when I was growing up, you'd get excited about the new, reading Blooms County or Doonesbury every day. Mm-hmm. Well, the newspaper's died. It doesn't even exist, especially to teenagers. So I think that instead of reading the newspaper and reading those comic strips every day, you go onto the internet and you watch 3 or 4 short-form comedy videos.
Yeah.
In between porn.
Well, of course, Mr. Gunn. But I just want to ask you a question, Mr. Gunn. Do you honestly think the experience of going to see a new independent art house film, is that really on the way out? Like going to my local Landmark theater?
Yeah.
Is that over?
There will always be a place for that, but it's really gotten killed. The other thing that's killed it is this, which is my least favorite thing about Hollywood movies, is this. When E.T. came out so many years ago, E.T. made a decent amount opening weekend, It made a little bit more the next weekend, a little bit more the next weekend, and then it just kept making money and money and money because things traveled by word of mouth. Today, the culture is that of even a huge, huge, huge hit will make a third of its gross on opening weekend. So people aren't going to see movies that they hear good things about. They're going to see movies where they like the trailer, or all their friends are going to see it. So people aren't going to see movies. That's the quality of films overall. I hate to sound like a curmudgeon, but the quality of mainstream cinema is worse than it's ever been because of that. Because when Warner Brothers is making a movie, they aren't thinking about making a quality movie that's going to hook an audience and get them to go tell their friends about it and go see it again and again and again. They're making movies that will get you in opening weekend and that will create an experience where, the reason you're going to see it is in part because of peer pressure. And that just doesn't create good movies.
I think the prime example of that actually is just 11 years ago when Titanic opened. And Titanic opened, most expensive movie ever made. It opened with something like $18 or $21 million. But if it opened like that today, the press and everyone else would call it off as a failure. Yeah. And how would that in the long term affect its ultimate gross?
The fact that you're middle American. My parents in St. Louis are always interested to see how much money movies made on Monday morning. That is a part of the conversation of going to films today. It's kind of disgusting.
It is. That started in the late 80s when the papers started publishing that on Monday or Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's really sick, if you ask me.
And read about it online. I mean, people will, be judging a movie's goodness based upon its dollar amount constantly. And
they do it on Friday night now.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you go to Nikki Fink, Nikki Fink, like Friday night has like the matinee figures from Los Angeles, and it's disgusting because you were talking about Friday afternoon, the Pitcher's fate has been sealed.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. I agree with you.
It's a sad thing, but, that's what the movie-going experience is today. So whether it's good or bad, that's the way it is. But I think that's one of the reasons why the movie-going experience is really threatened. And honestly, I don't know what type of experience like that you think of that comes back from that and then gets better again. I just don't see it happening. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, buddy. We got a caller on the line with a question. Caller, go right ahead. Caller, go right ahead. You're on live. Okay. We're not getting you through. I think that was they're in the chat room and they said they were calling in. Joel, we didn't get your call, buddy. I'm sorry. Ask the question in the chat room and we'll relay it to Mr. Gunn. I want to talk about all these new projects you have. I got a quick question about Dawn of the Dead. I'm wondering, did that project come to you? Did you campaign for it? And did you talk to Romero at all during that process?
No, it 100% came to me. And I was my good friend Eric Newman. He's a producer. He produced Dawn of the Dead and Slither, as well as Children of Men and a lot of other really cool movies. And we had been friends for years. In fact, my first ever meeting in Los Angeles, I did the Troma movies, and I moved out here and I got a really powerful manager, Peter Safran, who was at Burlstein Gray at the time. And the first meeting he ever set me up with anybody was Eric Newman. We had very similar senses of humor. We got along. We became friends. And we always wanted to work together, but we never had the opportunity. And one day he called me at home and he said, hey, and he would do this all the time, by the way. It was actually a little bit. He would call me at home with an idea or a property that he had and say, would you like to write this? And I would always say no, because I really do say no to 99.5% of everything that comes to me. And he said, I think I can get the rights to Dawn of the Dead. Would you like to remake that? And I was never interested in remaking a movie, but for some reason in that one moment, I could really see how the movie would be a lot of fun to write. And I saw how I could take the central concept of the original film and tell a different story with it. And one of the reasons why I never wanted to do a remake was because I thought they were irrelevant, because you could just watch the original story. But if we were able to take the central, the central story or the central setup of Dawn of the Dead and tell a different story around that, that could be something really exciting to do. And I also thought, frankly, as my business side came out as well, I'm like, I think it's time for a larger budget zombie movie to come out. There hadn't really ever been a larger budget zombie movie ever. And so, and by larger budget, I mean, something over $20 million.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it just came to me immediately, and I was extremely excited about it. I don't think I've ever had more fun writing a screenplay before. And
you feel it on the screen.
It's
you
one
really
of the few good remakes out there. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I had a great time.
I mean that. I think the opening with Johnny Cash, the man comes around. It's just from there you're hooked, and it never lets up, and it's very well done.
Thanks. Thank you.
Let's talk about PG porn.
Sure. that seems to be what we all want to talk about, yes.
That's right. It's billed as a web series for people who like everything about porn except the sex.
That's right.
I take it you're one of those people?
For those, yes. I'm always watching a good porn film, and I'm enjoying the cinematography and the acting and the storyline, the set design, and then
the pizza delivery.
Something comes in to ruin it with a gross sex scene. Yeah, and then the pizza delivery boy comes, and I think this PG porn is it's finally time for the pizza delivery boy to come, and for us to get what we wanted all along, which is warm, delicious pizza, not a threesome, not a cock in every hole. So it's PG porn actually it plays out like the little bits in between the sex scenes in old 80s horror movies. When I was young, I would go with my friends to the X-rated theater, and we'd make fun of the acting and all that stuff in an X-rated film. And this is that. This is that same thing. And every episode we take a mainstream actor like Nathan Fillion from Slither and Firefly and Serenity, or Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor on Smallville, or my brother Sean, who was Kirk on the Gilmore Girls, and we team them up with an actual adult actress like Belladonna or Sasha Grey or Jenna Hayes or Aria Giovanni, and we put these little scenes together that take on some elements of porn in one way or another.
Oh yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying it. It's on Spike.com. I understand that you conducted kind of a poll to find out the most popular kind of porn actresses.
I did. I just on my MySpace page, which is at myspace.com/slithermovie, one word. I post stuff in my status updates, asking questions all the time, and I asked people who the most popular porn stars were, and they started throwing out all the same names again and again, and they were like Tara Patrick, Belladonna, Jenna Hayes, Sasha Grey. They were just the same names over and over again. And so those were the people who I, contacted. And the way I contacted them was writing them on MySpace. And because I didn't know, I didn't know anything about. First of all, we were doing these things very inexpensively. I put the bill for them, and I didn't have access to the managers of porn stars. Plus, I thought that if I got involved with those people, they'd screw up the deal because we weren't really paying them anything. So I contacted the porn stars directly, and almost all of them wrote me back immediately. And there's a few that flaked out. But Belladonna, for instance, I wrote her. She was the first person I wrote because Belladonna must have very similar blog numbers to me, because every day after I post a blog, I check on the MySpace top blogs where I lie, and I'm usually, up there. And but I'm always right next to Belladonna. She would be before me, or I would be right before her, and she was always, she was my arch blog rival. I kind of hated her, actually, because I always wanted to beat her, and I was very happy when I was ahead of Belladonna, and very pissed off when I was behind her. And now I like being behind her. But besides that,
who doesn't?
But yeah, I contacted her right away. I emailed her on MySpace, and she called me in like 15 minutes after that to set this thing up. And her husband were big fans of Dawn of the Dead and Slither, so it made it easy.
So how many episodes are in this first series here?
Well, we've already shot 5 episodes, and we're just going to keep shooting them. So we'll see how many it ends up being.
So the
700, 800 probably episodes of PG porn. We'll see.
I'm all for it.
You
Man.
know, I'm going to keep doing them. I'm going to keep doing them as long as I'm having a good time and as long as I think they're funny. And once that stops, then I'll quit and do something else. And I am actually doing all this other stuff at the same time, so it's a little hard to balance PG porn with everything else I'm doing.
You are, and let's mention these other two projects here. I'm kind of an Xbox moron. So explain Humanzy to me.
Humanzy, well, here's what it is. Xbox Live has 11 million users on Xbox Live, and what they do is they play games against each other, but something Xbox is also making a lot of money off of now is people are downloading movies and TV shows in high definitions onto their console and watching them. And so that the Xbox machine has become an overall entertainment system as opposed to just a gaming console. So Xbox is premiering this new platform in this new software in November, and they came to me because they knew that I'm into this stuff, and they asked me if I could think of any sort of content to create for them. They wanted to create their first ever original content. Basically, Xbox would be like their own network and have their own shows. Mm-hmm. And they talked to me, and I had the day before I had been talking to, it was honestly like the day before, I talked to Rob Zombie during the day, and I had told him about this comedy project I was doing, and he said, you know, I'd love to do a comedy project, you know, but everybody thinks of me as a horror director, and I would love to do something like that. And I'm like, wow, here's Rob Zombie, who's a much bigger director than I am, and he really wants to be able to do comedy. And people let me kind of do what I want with comedy because I did the Scooby-Doo movies, and Slither was basically a comedy as much as a horror film. But a lot of my friends who are horror movie directors, they see them as strictly horror movie directors. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I went to a party that night. It was actually the premiere for Wrong Turn 2, Joe Lynch's movie, and James Wan, the director of Saw, was there. And we were talking about this, and he's like, yeah, I really want to do a romantic comedy. And I'm like, wow, the director of Saw wants to do a romantic comedy. That's a little strange, but why not? He's actually a very soft-spoken, sweet guy. And I'm like, that's interesting. So I got this idea in my head when I was talking to Xbox that it would be great to create a series of shows of horror directors directing comedy shorts. It would give them all a chance to do something that would, you know, be outside of the box, be outside of their comfort zone. I'm completely cheating, of course, because half of what I've done, if not more, has been in the realm of comedy, really, much more. So, but everybody else was doing something that would be unique for them. And if it worked, you know, if people were funny and did something really good, then that would be great for their careers. And if it was bad, you know, who really cares, you know? Right, so that was the idea, was to produce these shorts of horror directors doing comedies. And the one that I decided to do is called Humanzy, and it's about a human-chimp hybrid played by my brother Sean, and I'm actually acting in it. He plays my son. I send my sperm to a secret laboratory on ice, to a secret laboratory in Bratislava, and they take the sperm and put it in a turkey baster, shove it up a chimpanzee's vagina, and impregnate her with my sperm, which is physically possible, actually, which a lot of people don't know. And she becomes pregnant with my Humanzy son, and they send him back to me in sort of this crappy low-end FedEx box. And he lives with me and my roommate Val, who was played Marie Martini in Romeo and Juliet, and it's done in the style sort of an old 70s sitcom, except for we're just unspeakably cruel to the Humanzy throughout the show. Because that's how it all started. It actually started. The whole idea of a Humanzy started. I wrote a blog for MySpace again that people reacted really positively to, and it was simply because I was talking to my friend Stevie Blackheart, who had seen this Discovery Channel show about Oliver the Humanzy, who people thought was a human-chimp hybrid for many, many years. It ends up they did DNA testing on him, and he was just a mutant chimp. But he did a lot of things that were like a human being, and I was fascinated with this idea of a Humanzy. I went out with to a party that night with a couple of friends of mine, and we just kept joking about having our own Humanzy sons and how that would be kind of cool. You know, we could dress them in clothes like us and, you know, take them to parties, and girls would want to be around us because we had these, you know, Humanzy sons, and we could make them, you know, smoke clove cigarettes and, you know, stuff you do to a dog, blow pot smoke in their air, all that sort of stuff. And then when we were bored with them, we could just put them in a kennel in the back of the car, unlike an actual child. So a human-Z would be the perfect thing to have, and I wrote a blog about that, and people were so excited and started making this freakish art of me as a human-Z that I decided to make the TV show.
I know you've been so generous with your time. I want to just ask one quick question about the Scream Queens. It premieres on VH1 on the 20th of this month, I believe. This is a reality series, and the prize is an appearance in the next Saw film, Saw 6. Is that
right.
correct?
You get a lead role in Saw 6, and we take 10 women, very attractive women, who all want to be actresses. Some of them are actresses and have a lot of experience. Some of them have absolutely none at all, and we put them in a house together. And Shawnee Smith and I and John Homa, who's a great acting coach here in L.A., we put them through a series of challenges to sort of weed out the best of the best, such as we put them in a challenge where we cover them with 15,000 cockroaches and have them act in the scene. And I direct them in a scene every week, and we kick somebody off at the end of each show like you're known to do on a reality show. And, and we pick a winner at the end.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
Let me, the question that they were unable to get through to ask this question, they typed it up here in the chat room, if I can find it. In Slither, Lloyd Kaufman appears in the movie, and he originally had a line in the film. Why was that cut? Whose decision was that to cut that line?
Mine.
Wow.
There's the answer.
It didn't work. It didn't work in the scene for a number of reasons. Number one, it just didn't work in the scene. Number two, Lloyd's acting is strained at times. And in this particular moment, I wouldn't say he was turning in an exact, it wasn't exactly an Olivier-type performance.
Right.
So I cut it. I get shit about it all the time, too, but I cut it because it was bad.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Let's take one more caller. He's been waiting on the line. 720 area code. I think this is Denver. Go ahead. Man, what is wrong with our phone system tonight? 832 area code. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Herbert Bennett, and I'm a music producer. And I'm a big fan of the Slither movie. And I produce music that is reggae and rap, and with a kind of like a fuse of a punk rock type thing. And I was wondering, how would I get my music into Mr. Gunn's films?
Okay.
Huh. That's a good question.
Wow.
It's like usually I work with the music. It just depends on the scene. I mean, I actually, I do use music. If you put it up, do you have a MySpace page? If you have a MySpace page, send me a link to the MySpace page, and sometimes I check it out. Sometimes I don't have time, to be completely frank. But sometimes I check out music. One of the bands, the music that we use in Human Z is by a band called Couple out of Malaysia, who are like a Malaysian power pop band, and they sent me their link, and I'm like, God, look at these people from Kuala Lumpur playing music, and their music was amazing. And so I got the rights to use their music in Human Z, and it works perfectly. So I do occasionally just meet somebody. A lot of times I use people I know, too. I have Jane Jensen's songs and Slither and my friend Willie Wisely and people like that.